to be that lucky. He's on your marks, get set, go. Who's one? TTT Taylor. That's how quick he is out of the blocks.
Carlson NFL Euro.
The Weekly Review.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, back by unpopular demand, here is your Carlton NFL Euro Weekly Review.
The Northern Division.
The Super Swedes have won the North Division and have qualified as the second seed for the playoffs due to their superior head-to-head record over both Riggins and the Bone Rocks. They cannot, however, reach the number one seed due to their early season loss against the Disco. They are the first reigning champion to reach the playoffs in the following season. The auto-pick benchwarmers cannot win the North Division due to their inferior head-to-head record against the Super Swedes. They will take the wild card berth with a win against Paul's Polar Bears, but only if French leader loses against Saved by Laurent Bell. They will be eliminated if they beat Paul's Polar Bears and French leader beats Saved by Laurent Bell, or if the benchwarmers simply lose against Paul's Polar Bears. Despite all of this, they will break the single-season points record if they score more than 91 points in their Week 14 encounter with Paul's Polar Bears. Paul's Polar Bears can no longer make the playoffs following their defeat last weekend to Royale with TDs. They are currently in position to pick fifth in the Carlton NFL 6th draft, and they could finish the season with a .500 record with a win against the auto-pick benchwarmers. Royale with TDs were eliminated from making the playoffs in Week 11, but since being dumped have won 2 straight. They are currently in position to pick third in the Carlton NFL 6th draft. They will finish third in the North Division with a win against Super Swedes, coupled with the Polar Bears' loss against Riggins due to their superior head-to-head record against the Bears.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
So here's your verdict. The Swedes have overcome their blip and look set for the playoffs and will miss out on facing the informed Harrys due to having secured the number 2 seed. Riggins have a tough matchup against the Polar Bears to negotiate before they can start dreaming of the postseason. It'll be a close one as both teams have veteran gunslingers marshalling the troops who are capable of elite-level scores. The difference here is in the receiving department where the Polar Bears have the edge. As a consequence, we see Riggins falling at the final hurdle in his quest to see an auto-pick team successful for the second time in Carlton NFL Euro history. Royale will pick up the wooden spoon for the North despite ending their season with a win against the Swedish team in safety-first mode. The final standings: Swedes 9-5, Riggins 8-6, Bears 7-7, Royale 6-8.
The Central Division.
The Bone Rocks will win the Central with a win against West Coast Mafia or a loss against West Coast Mafia and a loss for redemption against Taylor. A loss against the Mafia coupled with a redemption win will leave both teams at 8-6 and with a tied head-to-head record. Now, the Bone Rocks would have a 4-2 divisional record, which would see them lose out to Redemption, who would have a 5-1 Central record. Should they lose against the Mafia, Bone Rocks cannot make the wild card due to their early season losses against both Riggins and French leader. It's divisional title or bust for the Bone Rocks. Redemption can only win the Central with a win against TTT Taylor and a Bone Rocks loss against the West Coast Mafia. They cannot claim the wild card space due to their loss to French leader in Week 6 despite holding the head-to-head advantage over Riggins. Whether Redemption win or lose, they have avoided a losing season for the first time since Season 1 and the first time since official Carlton NFL Euro records began. West Coast Mafia can no longer make the playoffs following their humiliating defeat last week to Taylor. They are currently in position to pick 6 in the Carlton NFL Euro 6 draft. They will finish bottom in the Central with a loss against the Bone Rocks and a TTTT victory against Redemption. TTT Taylor were eliminated from making the playoffs in Week 11, but since being dumped have won 2 straight. They are currently in position to pick 4th in the Carlton NFL Euro 6 draft, should they remember to turn up. They will finish 2nd in the Central if they beat Redemption and Mafia loses to the Bone Rocks.
Hi, this is Shakira, and you're listening to my favorite radio station.
We got a big broadcast to do here.
Here's your verdict. Coach Lars must be wishing the Mafia meltdown had been a week later to enable them to easily secure their 2nd consecutive playoff berth. As it is, they are surely in for a rocky ride as they are predicted to lose this final season game, opening wide the door for Redemption to claim the Central crown. Unfortunately for Redemption, they've hit a major slump just at the wrong time of the season. And just as the preseason favorite TTT Taylor has finally found some form. Questions will now have to be asked about whether Coach Andy can cut the mustard, or is he the Romo of Carlton NFL Euro, missing out so many times only to get within a whisker of making the playoffs and ultimately to choke. The final standings: Rocks 8-6, Taylor 7-7, Redemption 7-7, Mafia 7-7.
The Southern Division.
The Harry Frog Disco have won the Southern Division and have qualified as first seed for the playoffs due to their superior head-to-head record over the Swedes. A win against Fear Factory, who they never beat, would see the Harrys equal the single-season record for regular season wins with 11. They are aiming to become the first franchise to reach the Carlton Bowl for a 3rd time. The French leader can no longer win the South Division following their Week 13 defeat to Southern rivals Disco. They will make the wild card with a win against Saved by Le Revant Bell or a loss and a Riggins loss against Paul's Polar Bears. They will be eliminated with a loss against Saved by Le Revant Bell if Riggins beats Paul's Polar Bears. Fear Factory were eliminated from making the playoffs in Week 11 and are currently on a 7-game losing skid. Fear Factory are currently the only team to have lost to Saved by Le Revant Bell this season. '79 FC were eliminated from making the playoffs in Week 9. They broke their record-breaking 10-game losing skid last week. They are currently in position to pick first in the Carlton NFL 6 draft. A loss this week will condemn Saved by Le Revant Bell to a share with Brian Baptist for the record for the worst ever regular season in Carlton NFL Euro history, with only 2 wins from 14 regular season games.
All right, let's get a move on here. Who do we have next?
Here's your verdict. The Harrys have sewn up the first seed in the playoffs and the Southern Division with their victory last week, but will want to show Botan just who is boss, for despite never having made the playoffs themselves, the Factory have won an astonishing 5 out of 7 previous meetings between these two Southern foes. However, with the Harrys players soaring to spectacular heights in recent weeks, it's difficult to see anything other than the disco dancing around this time. Now, despite getting pummeled last week, Coach Lorette still holds the nap hand for the wild card race, and a victory against a 2-win team shouldn't be too hard to imagine. Final standings: Harrys 11-3, leader 9-5, Factory 3-11, Bell 2-12. So that's the end of Carlton NFL Euro 5 regular season. It's heartbreak for Riggins and the commish as they miss out on the final day, but hope springs eternal for the remaining 4 as the previous 14 weeks now count for naught. Next week, it's playoff football. Next week, we'll see a Southern shootout and the most important Valhalla Bowl ever. Next week, it gets serious.